My name is Purge and I approve the content in this video.
Hey guys, this is SUNSfan and welcome to the official Dota Cinema Guide to Rubick. If you aren't familiar with this hero, you may want to watch the introduction we did for him at the corresponding link. Rubick is an intelligence hero who serves as a great solo mid while being extremely strong against many team compositions. He essentially is the chameleon of Dota 2 since he can adapt to whatever you need. At level 1, it's probably a safe bet to start with telekinesis for defensive purposes. But after this, you want to max Fade Bolt by 7. This will not only allow you to get last hits, but also harass and push your lane, which of course makes it that much easier to bottle those runes. Second, you want to max telekinesis, which is an amazing spell if you really think about it. Not only do you lift a unit in the air for a certain amount of time, but you can both attack them and then fling them on another target. As you may guess, getting spell steal at the standard 6, 11, and 16 is important since this is really what defines Rubick. And then last but not least, is the passive that everyone seems to forget, Null Field. Considering your main objective is to steal some game-breaking ultimates from the opposing team, and knowing that because of that teamfights may occur more often, it's nice to have that extra magic resistance for you and your team. For starters, get your typical configuration of tangos to go along with 3 branches, which as per norm you'll want to turn into a wand. We're assuming you're playing mid solo, so getting a bottle as fast as possible is of the utmost importance. Going along with the early game, your boots of choice are arcane. Considering you're going to be spamming your spells, this seems like the logical choice. If you're farming like crazy though, or if it's just late game and arcane boots have outlived their usefulness, getting boots of travel is always a great choice as well. Into the mid game, mobility is your top priority. Getting a force staff will add to your already amazing utility, and then adding a blink dagger on top of that could be game breaking. Not only does pairing these items together give you great initiation if you steal a great teamfight spell, but you will also become much more difficult to kill, which in many cases is a bigger deal than other heroes because the spell you've stolen will be lost upon death. Into the late game, and of course sticking with the utility theme, a Yule's or Scythe of Ice are popular choices. If you want to go for a little bit of tankability, then a mech is a solid choice as well, especially when combining it with your Null Field passive. Situational items for Rubick will yet again have a lot of utility in them. A Shiva's adds a mix of tankiness, damage, and good initiation punch, while a Ghost Scepter is great against those pesky right clickers. Lastly, an Aghanim Scepter isn't exactly recommended since it technically doesn't do anything for you, but if you steal an ulti that does take advantage of it, you will effectively get the upgraded version. But realistically, just let the enemy pick up the Aghanims for you. Then you can steal it without spending 4,200 gold. Imagine going against a hero mid who can disable you, nuke you, reduce your damage, and steal your best spell. Sounds pretty awful, right? Well, as Rubick, you need to take advantage of the gifts God gave you, or in this case, Ice Frog. As you can imagine, Rubick is extremely strong in the early to mid game, mainly between levels 6 and 10. On top of being strong in every other category, the cooldowns of both Telekinesis and Fade Bolt are relatively low as well. But your main goal as Rubick solo mid is to control the runes and gank like crazy. Fade Bolt is used for pushing the lanes, and Telekinesis will aid you in any rune chase scenario. Now keep in mind that although he sounds amazing on paper, he is still pretty squishy. So while you'd like to be very aggressive if possible, you have to play smart enough to not put yourself in awful situations. Rubick is a snowball type hero, and a part of that is based on spell steal. You could steal the absolute most perfect spell, but then overextend and perhaps lose your advantage because of that. In mid to late game teamfights against big AoE ult, your goal should be quite obvious: to steal the biggest possible ult. But the problem is everyone on the other team knows this as well, so staying in a good position to steal a good skill is important, which usually means hanging back a bit. But then there are the skills that are ultra difficult to steal, especially against good players. Tidehunter's Ravage comes to mind since, well, 1, the range on it is just ridiculous, and 2, he can just spam Anchor Smash right afterwards in order to cockblock you to some degree. Another problem Rubick players get into is that they sometimes get obsessed with trying to get a big ulti. Sometimes a simple Burrow Strike or range stun will be enough, because remember, a lot of times the enemy won't expect whatever spell you have because you could have anything. But keeping that in mind, They can click on you and see what spell you've stolen, so try to chill in the shadows. One last tip with spell steal is you can actually avoid the cooldown of a spell if used correctly. If you steal a spell and use it, and then steal it again right afterwards, well, you've wasted your ult because your cooldown remains the same. But if you can somehow steal a different spell and then that big ulti, the cooldown is completely bypassed. It can obviously be very difficult to pull this off, but it's still an important thing to keep in mind. Rubick is a popular guy because his friends list consists of his enemies. We've talked ad nauseum about those big ultis, which would make Tidehunter, Enigma, and Sand King great friends, but being able to steal mobility spells from Quap or Anti-Mage can be huge as well. One special mention does need to go to Morphling though, because if you steal his Morph ability, you can morph your very unimportant agility into strength, and guess what? That extra HP is permanent even if you die. Heroes that Rubick doesn't like all that much are kinda hard to come by since he's such a friendly guy, but Doombringer isn't very nice since his Doom will disable all your spells, all your mobility items, and of course drain your pitiful health. Night Stalker is also a decent counter, not only because of his silence, but because it's hilarious when Rubick steals his ultimate, thinking it was void and, well, extends Night even further. One last counter would have to be Anti-Mage, which, yes, we mentioned him as a friend, but I guess it's more of a love-hate relationship, because sure, you can steal his blink, but he can just blink after you and drain your mana. Sounds like a complicated relationship to me. Thanks for watching, and please remember to subscribe to our YouTube. Also, a big thanks to FlawlezZ and Purge for their help in writing this guide. You can check out their awesome channels